Welcome to the Selling with Influence podcast, where we show you how to sell more of your products and services consistently, predictably, and profitably without having to offer discounts, quote lower margins, or compete on price in a race to the bottom just to get the business. My name is Dwayne Huff, founder and CEO of Influence Seminars, and I am your host. Hello and welcome back to the Selling with Influence podcast. I'm so glad you're here, and I'm so excited for this episode. For those of you who are watching the podcast, let me address this. I realize the last couple of episodes, it's been kind of laid back, t-shirts and whatnot instead of button down shirts. But I figure, hey, if you've been listening this long, it really doesn't matter. If you've been watching this long, it's not really what I'm wearing that you're worried about. It is the content. So I plan on over delivering today. Today, we're going to focus on 4 things that salespeople struggle with. Whether they've been, selling forever, whether they are just getting started, or they have a little bit of experience and maybe they aren't seeing consistent results, right? So this plagues all of us at some point on some level. I know it has for me. Even to this day, I'll be honest with you and say I'm not perfect at this. I still deal with this just like you may. And if you're leading a sales team, or if you're an entrepreneur, or if you're a business owner and you're having to sell, you may be dealing with some of this. So I wanted to unpack it in hopes that it would help you. But I know as I do this, I'm going to cover 4 things, and I've got my notes here beside me, but I know there's going to be some other things that maybe you're struggling with, and it's not always easy to say, hey, here's my struggle, here's what I'm dealing with, can you help me out with this? But here's what I'm going to recommend. If you're watching this on YouTube, please drop a comment, and you can, if you want to, you can say asking for a friend. It doesn't even have to be you, but tell me, what are some common struggles that you're dealing with as a sales professional, or someone who's leading a sales team, or somebody who has to sell, who owns a business, and you have to drive revenue for your business, and it's not going the way you want it to. And if you don't feel comfortable dropping a comment, send me an email at info@influenceseminars.com, and I'll help you with it. I'll either record a video, and of course you'll stay anonymous, but I'll record a video to answer that question to help you out with that, or we can jump on a call and I can help you through it. And if I can't, I'll point you in the direction of someone who can. The whole point of this podcast, Selling with Influence, is to help you sell more consistently, predictably, and profitably without having to offer discounts, compete on price, or race to the bottom, or be that pushy, aggressive, slimy, sleazy person that everybody avoids. Anyway, I digress. If you're listening to this on iTunes and you're enjoying it, please share it with somebody. Give it a 5-star review on iTunes. And if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. But without further ado, let me jump in. 4 common things that salespeople deal with and struggle with that may be keeping them from selling at their full potential and making all the money they can make. Because I truly believe, and I say this in every episode, you can literally write your own ticket in this profession. More than any other profession, you've just got to be willing to increase your influence. And these 4 things require an increase in influence to be able to solve. So I'm going to start, looking at my notes here for those of you who are watching. I'm going to start with prospecting, right? Because trying to find new business, especially when you're just getting started, or for some reason you're having to reach out to a cold audience, can be very uncomfortable. I know for me, it was the bane of my existence for the longest time. I still do it from time to time, and I've found some ninja ways to do that. But here's what I'll say about prospecting, especially if you're going to a cold audience. There's some people who would argue in 2020 you shouldn't be prospecting for business at all. But on some level, I disagree, because in some cases you have no choice. Whether you're starting a brand new business, starting with a brand new product, you've been in the industry, maybe you already have a book of business, but it's not relevant to what you're currently selling. Maybe you started a new business, and even though you've had years of sales experience, there's so many different reasons why prospecting is an issue for some people, because they don't know how to approach it the right way. Here's what I would say first and foremost. When you show up to a person, or a business that does not yet know you, like you, and trust you, the walls are up, you know that. So prospecting needs to be a give rather than an ask. I'll give you a perfect example. Whenever I reach out to people who do not yet know me, I have a lot of resources online, such as videos like this and audios, educational materials, and even a free training for brand new sales professionals. Professional sales professionals, or that the managers or the business owners can go and get and watch. It's a 3-part video series. If you want it, run over to sellingwithinfluence.com and you can get it. It's free of charge. But when I reach out to someone, I'll simply say, hey, here's what I do. I realize you're in this business. I don't know if this would serve you, but I have a 3-part video series that I think would really help you guys move the needle. Would you like me to send it your way? And if they say no, that's fine. I re-engage and say, hey, would a conversation be better? Because I know even though you guys are crushing it, there might be some things that you're still trying to resolve. I'm glad to be of service, right? So I show up with a servant's heart, with a servant's attitude, ready to give. And I think if you do that when it comes to prospecting, then you're more likely to make connections. And if you have a pure heart, if your agenda is simply to serve and to help, to build relationships, connections, make friends, and network with people, I think that comes across to people in genuine, right? Sometimes it's a little more difficult if you're doing it via email or message or on social media, unless you can do it kind of like this. A great resource, by the way, sales professionals, is a resource called BombBomb.com. I don't get paid to tell you about that. There's no affiliate link, but BombBomb.com is a video email service where you can actually send a video message to a complete stranger or somebody that you know and say, hey, my name is Dwayne Huff. I help sales professionals sell more consistently, predictably, and profitably. And I believe I can help you guys. I've got some free training. Can I send it your way? Anyway, they get to see a face instead of just a voice, i.e. a cold call or a cold message. It can make a difference in that particular case. So anyway, however you do it, however you choose to do it, number one, show up with a servant's heart, ready to give, not ready to take and ask. But if prospecting is not the thing you want to do long term, then I suggest starting right now, you do this, which is publishing, right? You see, we can either reach out to people, whether we know them, whether we don't, whether it's cold or whether it's warm, or we can put ourselves in front of them on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on social media, Instagram, whatever the preferred platform is for the people you're trying to reach. And we can put ourselves in front of them so that they can get to know us, like us, and trust us, unlike any other time in history. In fact, I think in so many ways, this COVID-19 pandemic that we're still in the middle of as I'm recording this has been a huge blessing in disguise for us sales professionals or anybody who's doing business, because the need to spend a lot of money on dinners and travel and hotel has been almost wiped clean. And I know there's examples and exceptions in every situation, but I've been talking to people across all different types of industries and all different types of roles. And they're like, Dwayne, I can have 5 appointments in a day, where I used to take 3 days out to go do one appointment, flying across the country, taking them out to dinner, getting, a hotel room and a rental car and all that kind of stuff and all those expenses. And they may or may not have bought. So that was just a huge risk and expenses that were taken. Now I connect with them and we have a great conversation, and then we sell. I can do demos, blah, blah, blah. But the reason I'm asking you to publish, and what I mean by that is because you might be thinking like I was, wait a minute, Dwayne, I don't write. I'm not a publisher. Everything that we put forth on social media and blogs and articles on LinkedIn, on any platform that you are on, that your audience is on, is publishing. Even if you pick up your phone and you go live and you just have a casual conversation. Today I was in my car. I'll give you an example. I was about to head out to run some errands, and actually I was going to meet a friend for lunch and then run some errands, but then I pulled my phone out right before I started the car, and I just went on and I said, hey guys, this is Dwayne. Listen, as sales professionals, I know that we sometimes have gaps and things that we can't solve on our own, challenges, problems that we can't seem to break through. And I don't know what those are for you, and many people won't share it, but if you're struggling with something or if you're having a challenge that you're not able to break through, send me a message or drop a comment below. I'm glad to help, and if I can't help you, I'll send another direction. Have a great day, but don't sit there and wait for it to unstick itself. A new set of eyes and a new set of ears on your challenge might break through it just like that. Send me a message. That's publishing. What I'm doing right now, the audio and the video, is publishing. On my website, sellingwithinfluence.com, there's a blog. On LinkedIn, there's articles, there's posts. I'm doing one a day at least. And what that allows me to do is to get in front of my target audience in a way that over time, they get to know me, like me, and trust me. And then they reach out and say, hey, Dwayne, I've been hearing you talk about these challenges that salespeople are facing. My salespeople are facing that. Let's have a conversation, or can you come work with us, or can you do some training for us? And that's how I prospect. It's inbound, right? They see me, they like me, they reach out. And one of my mentors taught me a long time ago, if somebody reaches out to you because they know you, like you, and trust you, and they see you as an expert, they're willing to pay sometimes 3 times more, as much as 3 times more for your products and your services, because it's a pull marketing versus a push marketing. So if you're having a challenge with prospecting, number 1, show up as a servant in give mode. Help them solve a problem for free, and every single day from now on, publish something that solves problem, entertains, helps people so they can get to know you, like you, and trust you. We used to have to go to meetings. We used to have to go to networking events. We used to have to do seminars. We used to have to schedule lunches. Whatever it is, we used to have to do this. It used to be expensive, and we used to have to be face-to-face. But think about some of the people that you follow online, who you like, who you know, who you trust, but who you don't really know, and realize that the reason you know, like, and trust them is because you see them over and over and over and over again, and there's no reason that you can't be that person to your prospects, your customers, your clients, and your potential buyers. So whenever you, I'll say it again, whenever you prospect, show up as a servant, and then publish. And here's the beautiful thing about showing up as a servant when you prospect, even if you don't get an appointment, even if they don't do business with you, even if they don't have a need for what you're selling, you're going to learn something about them and your target market that's going to help you be better to serve people in the future. So it's a win-win-win-win-win. So show up as a servant and publish. Second thing is, kind of goes hand in hand, and I'm holding it up here if you're watching this on video. If you're listening to it, I'm holding up a card that says rejection. On some level, even the most seasoned sales professionals deal with this from time to time, the fear of rejection. And so here's how I learned how to deal with the thought or the fear of rejection, of somebody not wanting to get an appointment, or somebody not wanting to talk to me, or somebody not wanting to hire me, or somebody not wanting to buy my products and services. In my business that I'm in right now, as well as the rest of my sales career when I was selling cell phones and copiers and pharmaceuticals, legitimately, in case you, I was in pharmaceutical sales. Okay, that was supposed to be a joke. But anyway, moving on, the fear of rejection. And here's what I came to understand about rejection. We have 100% full control of feeling like we were rejected, right? And it's really the outcome we're anticipating or expecting. And I read a meme the other day, I think it was on LinkedIn, Gary Vaynerchuk had posted, and it said, the number one way to avoid disappointment is to not have expectations. And I know I can just hear the voices right now, but he said the number one way to avoid disappointment is to not have expectations. And I think in this particular situation, this rings true, because think about it. If you reach out to somebody, if you call somebody, if you have a meeting with somebody, if you do a pitch for somebody, if you do a presentation for somebody and they don't buy, or they put it off, or they push away, or they say we're going in a different direction, there's a temptation there to feel a sense of rejection. But if you'll do this one simple thing, or you'll teach your people, your salespeople, how to do this one simple thing, it will change the game, because you have to realize that rejection is not reaching a predetermined outcome that you had hoped for. So, for example, if my goal in making a phone call is to get somebody to talk to me and have a meeting, and they reject me, or they say no, I can take that as a rejection unless I'm ready to say, and I mentioned this earlier in the prospecting phase, unless I'm willing to say, hey, no worries, no problem. I've got some free training that I think would really serve your people. No obligation, no commitment. Can I just send it to you? Let me know if it takes. If they say no to that, guess what? I was just giving them a gift. And if they didn't want to receive it, whose loss is it? In my estimation, it's theirs, because I just was going to give them something that could have helped them increase their sales, their revenue, and their profitability. So I was offering a gift. So instead of saying, it's got to work out this way, I've got to get an appointment, I've got to make a sale, this has to happen, I say, no, I'm going to let go of the result. I'm going to show up as a servant, as we mentioned and the prospecting phase, and I'm going to be a giver. And if they say no to the first thing, I'm going to have something else to offer them that's only going to help and going to serve them. I let go of any specific result I want because I know, here's the other part of it, because I know that if the person that I'm reaching out to or trying to do business with or trying to solve problems for or sell, whatever the case might be, if I understand and realize there's an infinite amount of opportunity out there, this person is just someone who I could potentially help. And if they don't want my help, no big deal. Bless and release. Right? And if you are selling a product or a service and your potential client base out there is literally unlimited, you don't have time to stew on the fact that they didn't want to do business with you, right? You just keep moving. Go, 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 right? But the other piece of this that I'll share with you is simply this. Make it your focus not to make a sale, not to get an appointment, not to close the business at that particular point. Make your goal to help them get a win. So again, in that scenario, if I was reaching out to somebody and I was trying to book an appointment and they were like, no, we're not interested, or whatever the case might be, say, hey, look, no worries. I'd like to help you guys get a win. Here's a couple of things that I could do for you, or I know some people, or there's something that I can give you for free that would help you guys. Can I send it over? My goal then is not an outcome of them working with me. Excuse me, water. My goal is to make a connection, help a person, build a relationship, and if that's driving me, then I rarely, if ever, will experience what people call rejection. I'm simply there helping people get wins. Yes, I'll win if I help enough other people. But if this person right here doesn't want to do business, doesn't want to connect, doesn't want to understand, doesn't understand the value that I bring to them, I'm there to serve. I'm there to give. I'm there to help them create a win. And if they don't want to win, I move on. And so that's one of the ways I have really learned how to deal with the sense of, I'm going to get rejected, the fear of getting rejected, right? So show up as a servant, try to help them get a win, and just let go of the result, right? And, for lack of a better term, go through the numbers. There's a great book out there called Go for No. If you have not read it, please read it, because it's not about just going through the numbers and getting a no. It's about, after you get the first no, trying to find another way to help and to serve. One of my mentors along the way, he was a regional manager for a huge bank, and he dropped a piece of knowledge on us that has resonated and stayed with me forever. I want to share it with you. He wrote it on the board. He wrote the word no, N-O. He says, many times we get scared of hearing this word. The fear of rejection, the fear of being told no, the fear of people not wanting to do business with us, the fear of asking. Because we feel like they're saying this word to us, no, and it's one of the most painful words that we've been conditioned to hear. He says, but what if they're not saying no? What if they're saying, and then he wrote on the board K and W on either side of the no, and it spelled no. He says, what if they're really saying they don't know? As in, I don't understand how you can add value. I don't understand why I'd want to work with you. I don't understand what you're saying. I don't understand the context. I don't know. And when people are confused or people don't understand or people are not clear, the knee-jerk reaction is no. I put my walls up. I push back. I'm scared. You're scaring me. And if we show up with empathy in a servant's heart, we can redirect that and say, hey, my apologies. Let me back up here. I realize you don't know me. I realize you don't know what I do, but here's who I am. Here's what I've done. And all I'm trying to do is help you guys do this. Does that make more sense? Sometimes you're going to get people say, oh, okay, well, I get it now. But we get so fearful of that first no and that rejection. And it's normal for salespeople. Our fears and our defenses are meant to protect us, and they're not going to go away. So we've got to push through them. But we have to have empathy for the person who we're reaching out to or connecting with, and realize that sometimes when they push back or put the walls up or say no, what they really meant is, no, I don't know. Help me to know. I need to know more, right? So I hope that helps. Remember, help them get a win and let go of the result so you don't feel, quote unquote, rejected. Which brings me to the next one, which is objections. Now, some people would say overcoming objections. Some people would say handling objections. Some would say overcoming, some would say handling. Objections But I say that if you're getting rejections that you're having to overcome or having to handle, there's something way before that objection came up that you needed to do so that you minimize or completely eliminate the objection. So the first thing to do is, number one, sit down and take inventory of the common objections you're getting with your product or service, right? Whether it's setting appointments, whether it's when you make a sales presentation, whether it's price, whether it's spouse, whether it's I got to talk to my partners, whether it's I got to bring this to a committee, whether it's we don't have the budget, whatever it is, make an inventory of it, right? And in your conversations, in your sales conversations, from the moment you connect with that person all the way through your sales process, bring up stories, examples, anecdotes, case studies that demonstrate that objection is normal, common, and understandable. I'll say it again, normal, common, and understandable. So if it's a price objection, the price is too expensive, right? You know it's going to come up. You know they're going to say it. You know they're going to feel it. So you can tell a story. You can say, you know what? I've been selling this product and service for a long time. And when you look at the price of this, it seems very high in comparison to everything else out there. And it really is. And here's why. And here's the difference. And here's the result and the value. And then I can simply throw it back over to the potential buyer and say, does that make sense? And they're like, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Say, now you can see that it's not really a big deal, even though the price is higher. What you're getting for that price is so much better. And I can address it. I can bring it up. I can address it. And I can get through it before the person brings it up. Because once they bring it up, it's an uphill battle. You have to handle or overcome the objection. I say, bring the objection up yourself. Make it evident. Tell stories and case studies and anecdotes around it so they can see it and empathize and understand it, and then move it through the process. Make it part of the sales process. Make it part of the sales conversation so you don't have to handle or overcome objections. Because if you get to a place and they push back on something, it just shows you something you missed in the conversation that you should have brought up. So if I had to handle objection in the moment, I better have built a strong enough relationship with the customer where I can say, hey, I totally understand. Talk to me. Explain that for me. Give me more about that because I need to be able to address that for future customers. I just lower their walls. They tell me. I say, oh, okay, well, let's solve that problem and then move forward. Then I can check back in. But again, it's going to be an uphill battle if I didn't do it ahead of time, right? Which brings me to the last thing, number 4, closing the sale. Here's what I'll say about that. 2 mentors of mine, actually 1 mentor of mine, early in my sales career told me, he said, Dwayne, stop worrying about closing the sale because here's the reality of the situation. If you have to close, you don't know how to sell. And I'm like, what? Because my managers in the 14 years that I was in sales before I started my company, and now I'm in sales, I started in 1996, but they were still trying to teach me to sell like I was in 1980. 1980s, 1990s, Glenn Gary, Glenn Ross. Try to say that with a dry mouth. Glenn Gary, Glenn Ross, Boiler Room, and if you've seen The Wolf of Wall Street, that kind of sales. I refused to do it, right? And a very refreshing moment in time is when my mentor told me, he said, Dwayne, if you have to close, you don't know how to sell. And what he meant is if you haven't had the proper conversation, built the right relationship, earned the trust, address the objections along the way, and really solve the pain, the problem for the customer, and co-created a solution, yes, you're going to have to use lines, tactics, word tracks, and techniques to try to, I'm using air quotes here, close the business. And that's proof that you haven't done your job. And I went on years later to realize there's another level of that. Not only if you have to close, do you not know how to sell, but here's what I would say to those of you who are out there. And I realize some of you listening to this right now are saying that is heresy, that is sacrilege, there's no way. But if you think about it, it's absolutely true. And now listen, I've sold across industries. I've worked with over 200 sales organizations. I've worked for over 15. I've had some of the best training in the world. And I can tell you across industries and small sales, big sales, complex sales, simple sales, long sales cycles, short sales cycles, IT, construction, finance, banking. Oh gosh, I shouldn't do this on the spot. Software. I mean, you just name the industry. I've done it and it works the same. Sales is sales is sales is sales is sales. And if you're pushing back on that right now and saying, no, it's not, my industry is unique, my situation is different, the reality of the situation is when it comes to selling and it comes to people, it is not. It is 100% the exact same thing. And if you do the proper job up front, here's the next level. If your customer, if your buyer, if your prospect isn't closing you, you don't know how to sell. Here's what I mean by that. If you get to the end, if you start going through your sales process and you get to the end where you're starting to advocate a solution, you're trying to advance to a decision and differentiating your products and services so that they buy, if they're not saying, how do we get started? How does this work? How do we implement? How quick is this delivered? What payment terms? If they're not doing those things, giving you the buy-in signals, you should not be, quote unquote, closing the business. You're not done. And a surefire way to know you're done is that the customer's leaning in and they're interrupting you. Excuse me, another sip of water. And they're interrupting you and they're giving you buying signals and they're leaning in, or they're just simply saying, sounds good. And we're picking up on those and we're just moving the needle forward. So they're saying things like, how do we get started? When can we get started? What payment terms? Whatever the case might be. If they're not doing that, you're not done. You should not be closing. I laugh when I see all these sales gurus out there talking about these closing techniques and these 5 points to closing a sale. And it's like, if you're doing your job right, there's no reason for it. I mean, when I think, I'm trying to think of an exception. I can think of one exception. Here we go. So every time I've tried to, quote unquote, close a sale, it's backfired on me tremendously and I've lost the business. But every time I've allowed the customer to close me, the business was better. I was working with a better person and it was easy, right? And the only time, two times when I tried to close, I was in a doctor's office having a conversation with him. He didn't like me. I didn't like him. I was pushing the issue. And at the end of my presentation, I said, Doc, will you write this product? And he looked at me and he looked me in the face. I hope you're watching this on video. He looked at me, he goes, don't you ever close me again. Do you understand, boy? I'm like, yes, sir. This was early in my career, right? Anyway, so yeah, that was one time. And the other time was I was selling vacation packages to small businesses. This was years and years and years ago. I was sitting, this was my first sell in that industry. I sat down with the business owner. We had a great conversation. And then at the end of the conversation, she says, it sounds good. I think I want to do it. She was closing me, right? I said, okay, great. Do you want to pay with a credit card or check? Dude, I mean, how slimy you can get. She bought it, but I was never welcome back to have another conversation. Third example of closing when I shouldn't have closed. This is back in pharmaceutical sales again. My manager was with me. I was trying to impress him. The doctor comes in. We're selling a particular product, and I brought it up, and the doctor just launched in. Maybe he was trying to impress my manager. I don't know. And I'd only had one conversation with this doctor prior, so he didn't really know me. I didn't really know him. But I brought up the product, and he started talking about how he used it in his patients, particular symptoms, case studies, how he used it, the results he was getting, and the fact that he really loved the product and he'd been using it for years. When he finished, instead of saying, thank you, doctor, great to see you, I'll see you next time I come, which is what I should have done, I launched into a pitch. Well, doctor, did you know that... I don't even want to finish. Doctor, did you know that this product can do this, 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 and this, and you should look at... Anyway, the doctor looked at me kind of funny and he left. And I looked at my manager with this big smile on my face, wanting him to be proud and impressed. And he was a great manager, by the way. And he looked at me and says, why did you do that? I said, what? He says, why did you pitch the doctor and detail the doctor? I'm like, well, that's what we do. He goes, the doctor just told you every way and for how long and how much he loves your product, and you're going to do that to him? I say all that to say that 3 times in my life when I've tried to close the sale, like these pushy, jerky, aggressive, hard closing, chest thumping, saber rattling sales gurus are trying to teach you, it's not necessary. It really is not necessary. If you do a good job up front, there's no reason to quote unquote close a sale. And I know it's sacrilege. I know it's heresy, but if you think about it for a moment, if you've done your job up front the right way, you've had influence because you've added aligned value, you've listened, you've solved problems, you've surfaced and laid out objections, and your goal there is to help create a win for the customer. Why would they not close you? Why would they not ask to move forward? If you have to close, you don't know how to sell. And I submit to you, if your customers aren't closing you, you're not done until they are. So I hope that helps today. Prospecting, yes, but show up as a giver and start publishing today. That's number one. Number two, I got my notes all mixed up here trying to find my cards again. Number two, rejection. Let go of the outcome and create a win. Be a giver. Try to get some sort of win in for that person. And if they don't want to do business with you, if they don't want to schedule a meeting, it's not because they're telling you no, it's because they quote unquote don't know and they need to know more. So in the spirit of the book, Go for No, try again. Knowing that on the other end, your heart is to give and to serve. Don't worry about, number three, handling objections. Bring them up, resolve them, tell stories and case studies and examples that help the customer to see and empathize with the situation so it makes total, complete, logical sense with them, and they won't bring up the objection because they know it's not an issue. Because if you're having to overcome or handle the objection, it's an uphill battle. You don't want to be there. And finally, looking again at my notes, closing the sale. If you've done your job up front, your customers should be closing you, and it's just that simple. Listen, I hope this has served. As you can tell, I'm excited about this stuff. I struggled with this for a long time throughout my career, my sales career for 14 years, and been in business for 12 years now. And I have to remind myself, one of the reasons that I'm sharing this with you is it's a reinforcement and reminder for me of the things that I've learned along the way so that I do them more consistently. If you'll just take those 4 things and you'll apply what I taught you in there, just give it a try. Shoot me a message. Let me know how it goes. I'd love to hear from you. And again, if there's another challenge that you're facing that I did not address in those 4, because I think it really boils down to those 4, drop it in the comments. Send me a message. Run over to iTunes. Leave a 5-star review. If you're getting value from this, share it with somebody. If you're on the YouTube channel watching this episode, please give me a comment, like, and hit subscribe and hit that bell so it'll let you know whenever a new episode is available. So remember, unlike any other profession on the face of the planet, you can truly write your own ticket in sales. You've just got to be willing to increase your influence, and that's what this show is all about, to help you do that. So until we talk next time, stay tuned and let me know how I can resolve or help you resolve your problems. And if I can't, I will point you in the direction of some wonderful resources of other people who are specialized in certain areas that might be able to help you unstick specific things that you're going through. Because there's no ego here. I'm here to serve, and that's why I do this podcast, and I look forward to hearing from you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.